Ladies and gentlemen, didn't see you there. We're back today. We got a new episode with somebody I'm excited to talk with. Somebody we're going to be talking about veganism, eating a vegan diet, plant-based, and we're going to be talking about nutrition and how to stay fit and various other things. We got nutrition coach and wonderful human being, Clarissa Gannon.
Hi, Chris.
How's it
Thanks so much
going?
for having me on. It's going wonderful. I'm super excited to have this conversation today.
Yeah. So let's start right off. How
Yeah.
how did you become vegan and was it and
That's
how easy was it?
Honestly, I didn't find it hard. For me, it was kind of a process. Um, I want to say like going back even to, when I was a teenager, I grew up on a farm. And so we had, animals. We had chicken and sheep and rabbits. And I felt that they were always our friends. And I hated, the whole aspect of having to consume them, in the winter for our food. So I stopped eating meat in my teens. And when I did that, I also noticed that a lot of my digestive problems went away. Like as a child, I had constipation and diarrhea, and I would have like vomiting for no reason. And I stopped eating meat and those things went away. And I was like, well, that's cool. But I didn't really connect the dots, until much later in life. I just knew that I felt better not eating, something that I'd considered a pet a few months ago. So, fast forward into, growing up, moving out, having children, the doctors kind of scared me back into eating meat. Like I needed to have the protein and the iron so that, I could make a healthy baby so that I wouldn't become anemic. And so I did, and I had the baby and that was fine. And then I went back to being vegetarian. And then I started having my children at home and I didn't listen to that outside noise. And I actually kept the vegetarian eating going through the next two pregnancies successfully. And throughout the time every time I stopped eating meat, my stomach would get better. And so I connected that. I want to say like after the birth of my third child, I was like, the babies are healthy. I feel good. I really think that it's because I'm not eating meat, and I don't have that heaviness like feeling in my body. So I blamed it on slow digestion, but I was cool with it because as long as I could manage myself, and how I felt by not having the animal products, I was just going to roll with it. Well, then some more life happened and I found the gym and lo and behold, protein came in and they're like, well, you have to eat chicken and you have to eat fish. And so I did. And I got really sick, like super, super sick. Yeah. So again, I cut out the meat. I felt great. Everybody's like, you're going to ruin your body. You're going to lose all your muscle. And I just didn't. I just didn't. By that point, I'd gone through several nutrition courses and it seemed just super simple to me to swap the protein. Like you're counting your macros. So you're getting protein, fats, and carbs. So if the protein comes from XYZ, instead of chicken, fish, and hamburger, why does it matter? And it didn't hurt my physique at all. In fact, I started lifting heavier and stronger. And then I started having digestion problems again, even though I wasn't having meat. So I was like, well, it must be the eggs. So I cut out the eggs. I felt better for a while. Then it came back. And at that point, the only thing I was eating was Greek yogurt. So I cut that
Oh,
out. Yeah. So I cut that out. And my stomach got better. And I was like, well, this is interesting. So this is, vegan by like an accident, but I feel so much better. And then my husband watched a documentary. I think it was not Forks Over Knife. It was a What the Health. He watched that one and he said, I wonder if I would feel better if I went vegan for a while. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I just stopped buying all the stuff and he did feel better and he lost a lot of weight, which that never happened to me. But he lost a lot of weight, which I think was, inflammation and getting blood sugar regulated again. But
mhm.
then after several months, he comes back and he's like, well, I want to eat meat again. And I said, I'm not buying that stuff anymore. This is how we're going to eat. Like I was so happy not to have to make two dinners anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's just how that journey happened. So I didn't find it hard. It was kind of, it took several years to get there. But then once I was there, I really believe that going through so many nutrition studies as I have really helped to understand that as long as you're monitoring what you're eating, there's no reason to have deficiencies or to have low protein or really anything, because if you're mindful of what's going in, your body is going to get all that it needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what are some of the protein sources? Obviously, meat is full of saturated fat, which increase
Mhm.
inflammation markers in the body
Oh
and
yeah.
also increase LDL cholesterol, which has been, consistently linked no matter what keto diet grifters tell you. There is a connection
Yeah.
between LDL and the raised cholesterol. So what kind of proteins do you recommend people switch out for the meat?
Right. We work with a ton of people that have a lot of food intolerances. So it kind of depends on where you're at, but some of my own personal ones are, I love pea protein. It's like so versatile, and it's very, very low in fats and carbs as compared to some of the other protein sources. You can get it in a powder. I get it in crumbles that look like dried up hamburger, I guess. And you just reconstitute it, and it's very, very high in protein. So that's like my personal favorite source. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, so just be aware of that when you're making things with it. And then the other thing that I really like to do is making my own seitan. People that obviously have a gluten intolerance or have celiac, that's not a viable option for them because it's completely gluten, but it
Yeah.
is another really good source of high protein and low carbohydrate, low fat.
Don't be scared by the name, people. It's spelled differently. It's not what you think. It's
Right, good point.
Satan. No, so, but other than that, stuff like legumes, lentils, beans, that's
Mhm.
something you could probably recommend for people, right?
Yeah, I do those. I do ask people to remember that there's still a good portion of carbohydrates. So if you're trying to be mindful of calories, like it's going to take way more beans to equal, what they need for protein for with the legume rather than having one of the more denser sources.
Do you ever have tempeh?
I do. I'm not. I don't like it. I
Why? It's
I
the
don't
best
know.
protein source known to
It is a
man.
really good protein source. I'm just not a fan. I have clients that love it, so I'm
I
like,
love
more
it.
power to you. Yes,
It's nutty. It's kind of
it is.
oaky. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but the fact is, it has mycelium in between, and so it is fermented bean patty, and it's an acquired taste. It's an old Asian thing. They it's on all the Asian food. I love it. I think it's delicious. And when I taste it, I go, that's protein. And I know my body's going to get something good.
Right. Yeah, it's a great source. It's just not my favorite.
So what else? What else can people eat? I mean, obviously, we're talking about a wide variety of foods, but let's go over
Mhm.
some of your favorite foods to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously the pea protein seitan is my favorite. I love broccoli. I have it every single day, even though I probably shouldn't. Um, Broccoli is good for a lot of there's so many good benefits to broccoli and really any of the cruciferous vegetables. They have some protein, they've got the good fiber in it. There's another compound in it that actually helps to bind excess hormones. So it's such a good thing. And then of course the green ones are going to have a little bit of iron. Cauliflower is not a great source of iron, but the
Mm,
other green vegetables that are cruciferous are going to have some iron. And bonus, they have the vitamin C, so that helps with absorption as well.
mm.
Um, and then honestly, I think, I do have some of the mock meats sometimes, and they can be good in moderation. I think a lot of the restaurants here, anyhow, like you got to eat with your family that's not vegan, and because my husband's family is not vegan,
Oh,
they're
I know all
not. But a lot of the restaurants here anymore, at least they'll have like a Beyond Burger or an Impossible Burger or something on the menu, so that you can get that. And I think that can be a good substitute sometimes.
yeah.
Not that you want to have it every day, but
Well,
at least
these
options.
these little moments, like, you're not going to live forever, so maybe on
Mhm.
on rare occasions, but yeah, when you go out to eat, there's not anything really available for people like us, and you have to sort
Yeah.
of binge the thing. But the ingredient lists are long, and there is tons of coconut oil or palm oil, and some of the
Yes.
stuff, but it's delicious, chock full of protein, and no animals get killed. So
Right.
but the rest of the time, whole foods is the way to go, you think?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think so. The benefits are just huge. I mean, and if you think about, all the good things that you're putting in your body, you're reducing inflammation, you're giving it the nutrients it needs so it performs better, it's going to last longer, you're going to feel better, all of those things. And, I think a lot of us, as we're getting older, we're looking more at the bigger picture, like how much longer are we going to have this body to run around in, and maybe we should start taking care of it a little better.
We must be the same age, Clarissa.
It's a good possibility.
Yeah, I mean, and so what about stuff like some crazy people out there, the keto diet? They always say, "Well, where do you
Oh,
get your omegas?" So what's your solution?
Omegas, I mean, you can get them. My favorite sources for people are the walnut oil, sesame seed oil, and flaxseed. And then other than that, there are some really good omega-3 supplements out there that come from algae. And that's, of course, top of the line, most condensed.
Yeah, wow, that's exactly what we're doing over here in this household.
Cool.
Is the algae-based capsules for what is it, DHA 3, 6, whatever, full
Mm-hmm.
spectrum. Take it once every week, once every 2 weeks, maybe, and
Okay.
then along with the B12 vitamin, I'm good to go. I
Yep.
don't need to kill anybody in order to
Right.
survive.
Yeah.
Which I was suspicious at first because I wasn't like you. It took me years, and I
Yeah.
loved animals from the very beginning of my life. I would see people go fishing and then hit the fish on the head with a hammer, and as a kid, I'm just like
Oh, yeah.
crying. I'm
Yeah.
throwing a deep
Right.
fried piece of fish back into the water, crying, saying, "Go back to your home." And
Oh,
uh,
man.
I really loved animals, but it took me 35 years to officially make a choice to say, well, all right. And thanks to my vegan wife, who's been vegan for 15 years, she did the same thing you did, which was like cooking 2 meals and stuff, trying to be
Yeah.
nice, but at the same time, she's so grateful that I'm now A, doing all the cooking, and B, also vegan. And I feel better than I've ever felt in my whole life. That's for sure.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's amazing. I do. I feel fantastic.
So you've heard other testimonials from other people who have probably gone vegan. What do they say about,
Hmm.
because I'm just now starting to get in shape. So
Okay.
what is like the difference between people that are vegan that work out and people that are is there better recovery? What do you hear?
Hmm. I do think there's better recovery. And at first, I thought it was because, you really by proxy, by having beans and vegetables and all that as protein sources, are getting a little more carbohydrates than maybe on a standard um, diet we would prescribe for someone that's athletic. But I don't think it's that at all anymore. I think it's the reduction in inflammation. If you're not ingesting pro-inflammatory foods, you're going to recover from the inflammation of exercise much faster because your body's not in a constant state of inflammation.
Hmm. Yeah, and like I mentioned before, saturated fat and inflammation
Mhm.
are hand in hand, and the fat that's on meat is the fat that is solid at room temperature, and it's solidifying the same way in your bloodstream. Um,
Yes.
Got to be careful, folks. Got to be careful. So, what have you had a lot of success stories with people coming through, changing their lives? Anything that we can brag about as vegans trying to spread the message?
Yeah, no, we've had some clients come in. I mean, obviously, a lot of our clients that start with us are vegan. I've worked with non-vegan coaches, and I know what that feels like. So, when we have a lot of people come in, they're already vegan, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy I found you because you're vegan, so you understand what I need." I'm like, "Of course, it's really not that hard. Don't know why the next guy's making it that hard." But I think that we've had some ladies come in. We had this really, really awesome story from last year. I think she joined us in October, and she's like 60. I want to say 65, maybe a little bit older. But anyhow, she came in and she'd never done any vegan. She'd never done any vegetarian. And she joined us for like a 21-day program. And oh my God, she lost like 5 pounds that she really didn't need to lose. But she was like, my knees don't hurt. I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. And while she was doing this 3-week program, her husband decided to join her. Like he wasn't participating with us, but she kept updating us on his progress. And so he joins her. He lost like 15 pounds in 3 weeks and had his labs done, and all of his markers, like his high cholesterol, triglycerides, and blood pressure, were down in 3 weeks. That's huge.
Wow. Why? How?
Yes.
And what? So were they ranting and raving about how surprised they were, and then you actually converted
She
these?
still is, like to this day. And so October 5, 6, 8 months ago, 7 months ago.
And you're saying this was an older person?
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yeah, she
how
was
how old?
crazy. I
How
think she
old?
was like 65. I
See,
know she's
that's
retired.
impressive. That's
Yes.
impressive.
Yeah.
Make a true believer out of me. If you're brave enough, you can find out new things and might help change your life. Yeah.
Right.
So what do you think it is about the? Obviously, we've been talking. It's like the men seem to always be a bit chubbier and harder to lose the weight or whatever. Like, why are the men having the harder time? And
Really? I think it's because they know everything.
oh,
Like,
right.
right? Like we work with primarily women, and every once in a while we get a guy, and they're like all gung ho for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're like, do I have to do that? I don't want to do that. I'm going to eat this. How about if we change this? Like, if you would just follow the plan, everything would work like it's supposed to. But I think that because it's hard for men to, number one, reach out for help in the first place,
Yeah.
and then to actually follow what someone else is telling them, I think can be very hard for most men.
This is absolutely true. I read an article when I was a kid because I spent a lot of time at the library. Men die of heart disease really early on because, first of all, they have nobody to talk to because they have to tough everything out. Right? Like, I'm
Yes.
not gonna. My elbow feels like it's gonna fall off, but I'm just gonna not say anything because I'm gonna be tough. And they're more likely to not go to the doctor. Die earlier from stress-related illnesses and stuff. But you also talk about like hormones. You think hormones
Mhm.
play a role in diet too, right? Like,
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, looking at, so if we're ingesting animals and animal products, we are taking in their hormones, right? And whatever hormones the companies pump the animals full of. I mean, you're
mhm.
just getting that through tissue and through cells. So if you take away that, I believe that does help some in, helping the body to come back to balance. But what we see most is like, we work with a lot of women that are going through the change of hormones, like going through perimenopause. And that's massive like hormonal fluctuations. Sometimes they go down as they're supposed to, sometimes they don't. But a lot of it, I feel, is exacerbated by the current practices with diet and by the current practices with exercise. And if we're living in a state where the hormones are imbalanced, that's going to cause issues with cortisol, which is going to increase inflammation, which then keeps the scale staying the same no matter what these women do.
Mm.
And that's without going into like negative calorie adaptation and other hormone problems. But I just think a lot of it does simply come from inflammation. So if you're currently keeping your body inflamed through cortisol, it's going to have a much harder time getting the weight off, if not impossible, honestly.
Yeah, and I think you're right. They feed beef and other meat. They just feed them whatever they can. In some cases, they feed
Mhm.
cows candy and stuff to try to fatten them up and stuff. So you're eating all that kind of stuff. But then on top of it, if you're doing stuff like meat is full of hormones because it's a living creature that has hormones running through its blood. But then
Right.
again, if you're doing dairy, you're doing cheese, the butter, the yogurt and stuff, you're consuming the hormonal soup of another animal that's meant to grow a tiny cow
Yes.
into a giant big cow. So there's a lot of power behind this stuff, and you're ingesting it expecting not to get hormonal imbalance, acne,
Mhm.
inflammation. So in addition to the saturated fats, like you also get uh, a mixed bag, a mystery bag full of different hormonal changes, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That, and then, well, and think about the egg. That's got to be like super condensed hormones.
Yeah. Ugh.
It's going to make another being. Ew, yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's just,
I at some point I get very weirded out by the idea of eggs. Somebody
yeah.
told way or described it. Say this is like a potential chicken. Okay, it's a potentially living thing, or it comes out of a chicken's butt. I don't know. It's just, I think I
Yeah,
could live without it. I mean, honestly.
right.
But but I will say, when the times that I did eat meat, it does trigger that part of your tongue in your brain that says, "Oh yeah, good, okay, chew, swallow, get nutrients and stuff,"
Hmm.
and that reward or whatever tastes good. But we're we're in 2024 now. We got to start thinking more about what's good for us, not just what we think tastes good, eating for pleasure rather than eating for nutrition. I think, like you said, I'm 40 now. I got to shape it up or.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about, the longevity aspect of it, which is something I try to, get our clients to understand is you've spent so many decades chasing weight loss and you haven't achieved it. Don't you think it's time to look at the big picture? Because the big picture, are you like, really, are you going to diet all the way into your 80 and 90? That's not how I want to spend my life. Not at all. You need to find something that is sustainable that you can practice day after day, year after year, that's going to keep your body healthy and strong and, keep you out of the nursing home, prevent your brain from going crazy and getting dementia. All of those things. Like, we want to be healthy and independent in our old age, not a burden on someone else.
Yeah. Do you ever get frustrated because you look at the chronic illness that goes around? 80% of the people are overweight, 40% are obese. Do you ever get frustrated looking and say, well, why? And you see what they eat too. Do you ever get frustrated saying, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah. I used to get really frustrated. I've been in this space for a while now, and like being frustrated for them doesn't help. But I think kind of where I've shifted my energy to is education, because there's so much education on the web, right? But how much of it is accurate? How much of it is true? Do you know somebody that's eating keto today that's going to be still eating keto when they're 90? Like, no, there's not. It's not sustainable. So if I can't provide enough education and enough awareness and just, feel like I'm sounding like a broken record, eventually somewhere it's going to make the impact on whoever it's supposed to make the impact on and create a positive change.
And what do you think are the greatest methods? I mean, there are people that are promoting a vegan diet that are doing other stuff. They're trying to show people what cruelty looks like, and they're doing something. What do you think are some of the best tools we have to spread the good word about this diet?
Right. Well, I think simply, sharing our own experience, but also like setting that example. I think there is still this stigma that when somebody just said something at the gym the other day, because I had on a shirt that said vegan, but I think there's still just this stigma that vegans are these weak, vitamin deficient beings that can't do anything. And it's not true. It's so not true. So I think if we can set, a healthy, strong example, that's going to go a lot longer ways than, showing them a bloody cow. Maybe that's going to work for somebody. It just makes me sad and want to cry. I don't want to, like, it's
you were already vegan. It's fine. Yeah. But
yeah.
For the people that'll make you cry, maybe that would work. But for the most people, I agree. I think that we're all sort of self-centered in the way where, well, is it good for me? That's all I really care about. And yes, it is. It's actually totally good for you. But I just started exercising because I also felt the pressure because I did it for the animals, right? Essentially. And then I realized, well, it's also really good for you and it's also really good for the environment. Holy shit, why didn't I do this before? And but now I gotta look the part. I can't have a pencil neck. I gotta get really fit and I gotta show. Because I think I agree. This is the best way to move especially with these tough guys, right? Oh, I'm a tough guy. I need my meat. You see that a lot? These guys, I'm a tough guy. I need him. It's man again, I'm telling
so
you.
much as they used to, but yes, they're still out there.
Stubborn old dudes, I'm telling you.
Yes.
That's all right. We'll get them somehow. Well, we got some, you can tell them. We've got MMA fighters and these, ultimate fighting guys. A lot of them are vegan, bodybuilders, stuff like that. Tennis players too. Best tennis player in the world, vegan.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we're doing good.
We are.
So do you think veganism is the future? Do you think that we're making progress? Because sometimes I get really mad. I do. I get really mad.
Yeah, no. So when I was, practicing my solo vegetarianism in, my teens, we had tofu and like a little cheese that was made out of almond and then, like boxes and cartons of soy milk and rice milk, which is, I still think really gross, but that's all that there was. So if you look at, you can go into almost any supermarket now and find, a vegan section or at least some vegan things thrown in with the regular things. And I think that has to be progress. It wouldn't be there if there wasn't a demand for it.
Yeah. I think that's one of the ways you can tell that times are changing. I just hope that's true. Everybody hangs on. I hear that it is going well, but I'm still like, it needs to go faster. It needs to go faster. We need to stop the cruelty, we'll make it.
Right.
I do believe it. I do get upset though. Oh my God. And the keto people, I don't want to keep bringing them up, but there's something wrong with them. What can you say about the keto diet? What's the most ridiculous thing about that for you?
Oh gosh, the whole thing. It's such an abused diet. Like there was a purpose for the keto diet when it was designed medically, and it's just been abused by the fitness industry and abused by people. And people even that say they're doing keto aren't doing keto. They're just doing high fat and making themselves so unhealthy and so inflamed. And like I said earlier, if you're doing keto today, you are not going to be doing it when you're 80 and 90. You're just not. And so what do you think is going to happen when you stop doing keto? All the weight's going to come back. And you're probably going to have additional health conditions because of the high fat. So it's like really something that does not resonate with me at all. And I wish it would go away. But every time it seems to like have a dip down in popularity, somebody re-resurrects it, and here it comes again.
I read the other day that the majority of keto diet research is funded by food industry, meat, dairy, stuff like that. Okay, and the one study that recently come out that said, oh, maybe there's no link between cholesterol and fat. It was funded by the egg, beef, and dairy industries. All three of them put their name on the bottom funding for this study. And this is the one the keto people like to parade around and say, look, see, and they're resurrecting it by questioning the science that's already confirmed that says LDL cholesterol is a risk factor for heart disease, the number one killer of people. And they're trying to reverse that. If they can reverse that, then they can start to implement, more terrible dieting advice look. And then at the same time, they say, well, plant-based studies are mostly funded by government grants. So there's less chance for a bias in the research. But I really just feel bad for him. Robert Atkins, he was the famous low-carb guy. He died of heart disease trying to hide it from everybody. And they resurrect it. Keeps coming back. But I think also ketosis, you're in it they recommend after 6 months, you're supposed to introduce carbs again or something like this. At some point, do you think at some point that these people are just going to put this weight back on?
Of course. Absolutely.
I would hope then they would see that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that are, I'm doing keto, and then, they go off it, and, because they go somewhere, there's a bread, there's a pastry, there's a cake. And so they have that, they take themselves out of ketosis. So they have to start the whole process all over again. And it's ridiculous because our body needs the carbohydrates, like for your brain to function, for hormone balance, for digestion. Oh my God, those people don't have any fiber. And
it's like quicksand down there.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But the second you reintroduce carbohydrates, no matter how big or small, you have, not that you're putting in excess calories necessarily, but people don't seem to understand either that carbohydrates bind water. That is just part of the process of how carbohydrate processes through the body. And every gram of carbohydrate that we eat is going to bind up to 4 grams of water. So a lot of the times they think that they've gained so much fat, and it's just, well, you have to fill your muscle back up with glycogen. Your brain isn't starving anymore. And you probably have some water weight. Like it's not really a big deal, but they kind of freak out.
So, and isn't there this misconception about protein deficiencies, like as if they're, first of all, common at all, but don't most people, even especially vegans, get plenty of protein, right? I mean, I think most people eat too much, right?
Yeah, The only time I see problems with protein deficiency is when there's something wrong in the gut. So, you're not assimilating or absorbing or breaking down protein properly, but then
Mm,
that's a whole nother issue. It's not that they're deficient in protein. They're just simply not utilizing what they're taking in.
yeah, that's a thing on its own. And there's, of course, a
Mhm.
lot of individual variability with people's diets and what they can eat and what they can't eat, and
Oh
everything like
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
But I mean, as far as nutrition, though, I mean, essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Uh, what kind of seeds can you recommend?
Seeds. We love to do the sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. Um, oh my gosh, I went out of my mind. I love hemp seeds. That's like got to be my favorite.
Groovy.
Yeah. And then sesame seeds are really good too.
Yeah. I love the sesame. I do sesame on stir fry. I
Hmm.
make pesto out of sunflower. I do pumpkin seeds
Okay.
roasted, very
Yeah.
delicious. What else do
There.
we do? Chia seeds. I've been doing
Oh
chia
yeah,
seeds
chia
and
seeds.
oatmeal.
Hmm.
Very nice. Um, God, what are all the different seeds?
The
They're all pretty good.
they're all good. Yeah, flax seeds are good, but I think there's like people need to just understand a little better that you're really not, if you're taking in the whole seed, you're really not going to get much out of it. So if you're trying to
Mm.
have the flaxseed for nutrients, you need to be having a ground.
Yeah, Dr. Greger told me that. I said
Hmm.
he's also crazy about black cumin. Have you heard about this?
Oh yes, I haven't had it, but yeah.
Apparently, it's really good, and
Hmm.
but you have to sort of grind it up or whatever, break the shell of the thing to get
Yeah.
the nutrients inside. But still, even if you don't, the flax, if it goes, it's good fiber. If even if it's just passing
Yes.
through town,
Right.
yeah. So, but yeah, being on a vegan diet, it's not totally straightforward. You do have to plan a little bit, and you have to start
Hmm.
thinking about your meals and what's in them and stuff, and not just meat. It's generally, yeah, you go get a taco or something, and you just put it in your face, and you keep living, and you don't think about it too much. But vegan diets, you do got to pay attention.
Hmm.
Are there any other concerns that you've seen people forget to eat this, that, or the other, or
Um,
anything that we don't want to forget?
yeah. No, I think we've covered a lot of like the essential nutrients. Vitamin D is important on a plant-based diet. I think like most people don't get outside, to get what is needed from the sun. And then vitamin D is needed for so many, proper hormone synthesis. And there's really not a great plant-based source. I mean, you have mushrooms, which are, I think, the highest, but it's D2. So then your body has to, ingest more of it so that it can convert. Oh, that's something that it can convert it. But I think that's something else that's really cool about your body is that once you're eating more plant-based and you're not getting in like the fish oil and the vitamin D, and I think there's another vitamin, your body actually can start to make the proper nutrient from the plant-based version. And it does take a little bit of time. I forgot what this is called. I wrote a paper on it like 6 months ago. But if you're taking in, like we talked about, the algae oil is our only source of vitamin D3, or not vitamin D3, the omega fatty acid 3. But
Right.
if we're not getting in the algae oil and instead we're using the flaxseed oil, which is the omega 6, your body can over time learn how to convert omega 6 into omega 3.
Wow. Good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I do not remember what that's called. I have to look up that paper that I wrote on it. But it was really cool. And of course, that's not going to happen in somebody that's eating both. But if your body's only getting, the omegas from this source and this source, it will over time learn how to do conversion.
All right. Good to know.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of things yet to learn about how to get the nutrients that you need, and no more, no less. Because
Right.
I think, isn't it sort of, it is kind of sad that the nutrition science is such a minefield of misinformation and stuff when
Yes.
it could be more
Yeah.
straightforward.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of the problem with the whole nutrition, fitness, health industry is a lot of it is, there are studies on a lot of things, but I think a lot of it is opinion, or a lot of it is it worked for this person, so it will work for you. And then that just gets passed off as truth when maybe there is some truth in it, but it is not necessarily applicable to everyone.
Yeah, totally true. And the other thing is, and I've had to check this multiple times and stuff, but the consensus with the scientific community is that there are better metabolic outcomes with whole food plant-based diets if they're planned correctly.
Oh,
They
yeah.
beat out every single other thing that you could possibly think of. Close second is the omnivore diet with your Mediterranean sort of blue zone fish but basically the same thing, mostly plant-based. Keto people also like to get on a high horse about us vegans being totally into sugar and refined carbs. Is that true? Are we into sugar and refined carbs?
Well, I'm not. Maybe some people are.
I'm not, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not into
Well,
diabetes or heart disease.
right. Well, and two, I do think that, yes, if you're eating a plant-based diet that is not well planned out, that's missing, in the vital nutrients that our body needs, you're going to crave refined carbohydrates and sugar because your body knows that it needs something. So it then manifests as cravings. But if your diet is planned, it's well-rounded, you're getting all the nutrients your body needs, you really don't crave anything.
Yeah, I agree with that because at least from an anecdotal point of view, I feel that when I eat the food that I eat, and I feel lighter, stronger. I feel lighter, fluffier. I feel better all around on a diet that's rich in whole food, plant-based, unrefined, unprocessed plant food. Something that come right off the vine. Shine it up, take a bite, good to go. Quinoa also. Do you eat a lot of quinoa?
I like it, but I've been trying to cook it for 20 years, and I can never cook it well twice in a row. So
What do you do? I mean, I just add water. Like I add water, and then
yeah,
after it's done, then I add a little magic after the fact.
yeah, okay, yeah. No, I cook it similar to rice. I put it in the pot with the water, put the lid on. Sometimes it cooks nicely, and other times it doesn't. It might have to do with our elevation, or else I'm just a bad grain cooker. I don't know.
Well, how much water are you putting in? It should be 1 cup of quinoa and then 2 to 3 cups of water, right?
Yeah, yeah, 1 cup of quinoa to 2 cups of water.
Does it come out too crunchy, too soft?
Both. This is what I mean. I think.
Oh, geez.
I think I'm just not a good grain cooker. I don't know.
Maybe somebody's messing with the stove heat when you're not looking.
Maybe that's giving my family too much credit, I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's one of my personal favorites. You're talking about tempeh and quinoa. Somebody could live off that, and a few leafy greens. I think you could live just off that if you really had to. But if you're vegan, don't just opt for the French fries and candy bars and the Beyond Burgers because you will regret it.
Right. Yeah. There's so many good foods out there, and I think a lot of the times there is a tendency to think too that because it's vegan, it just has to be like raw vegetables, like you're having salad, you're having fruit, and it doesn't have to be that way at all.
Oh, I can name many beautiful, delicious foods that aren't salad or fruit. Caramelized walnuts, or I'm doing all kinds of stuff in the kitchen. There's just wonderful toasted nuts in general. I like to roast my own nuts, dip soy sauce on like that. Oh, forget
That's
about
so
it.
good. Yes. Yeah. They have chili roasted pecans here, which are amazing.
Well, you're close to Texas, where all the pecans come from.
Right.
We can't in Germany. We can't get pecans. They're about. You got to take out a mortgage to get a bag of pecans. They're expensive.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's serious business. So let me ask you this, for my own personal selfish reasons. When I'm working out, how many parts of my body can I work out at one time? Should I split the upper body and the lower body into separate days, or?
How many times a week are you working out?
Well, I'm trying to do it every day because I'm really trying to get pumped up, and I want to be
Okay,
I want to start intimidating meat eaters when I go out, and
there you go.
you know.
So if you're working out every day, yes, I would split it and do upper and lower on separate days.
Okay.
If
All
you're
right.
just hitting like 3 days a week, then it's pretty safe to do total body 3 times a week. But if you're doing every day, I'd split it up
What
just for
about
recovery purposes.
how long do I rest for?
Um, Generally, people need to rest longer than they think that they do.
Mm.
I know 60 seconds is kind of thought of as like the general guideline for rest in between, but we want to, in order to like really challenge ourselves, on the next set of exercise, we probably need to rest closer to 2 minutes.
Okay. Interesting. Good to
Yeah.
know. Yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm going a little too fast, too
That's,
excited.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I wouldn't do every single session like that.
sure.
It
And
creates a lot of inflammation.
what's your personal advice about the balance between the cardio and the like a yoga stretching kind of thing and weightlifting? What's your
Mm,
ratio? What's the best combo?
yeah. There's not like a hard answer. It depends.
Mm,
Because a lot of it depends on goal, a lot of it depends on where the person is, a lot of it depends on um, how much stress the person is under without the exercise. But what we generally like to do is make sure that we're getting in 2 to 3 days of solid weight training. And then the way our programming generally works is that we add stretching in on those working out days. That way we're getting, a period of recovery after the workout session. And then if you can get steps in every day, we'll aim for a step goal. If you're wanting to get outside and go walking, do that as much as you want, as long as it's not creating additional stress in your life.
mm. Do you stretch a lot? Do you do any kind of yoga or extreme?
Yeah, no, I have to stretch and stuff before or after my sessions, because I guess I'm that old now. And then I do yoga at least once a week. Have to.
Me too. I'm about there.
Yeah.
So, what do you recommend stretching before and after you lift, or what's the best?
Um,
What do you
I do
seem to go
after.
for?
So if you're looking at stretching, um, stretching is like lengthening the muscle and having it relax. So we don't really want to go into our workout with relaxed muscles. We want our blood flow going. We want our muscles mobile.
Mm.
So what I generally recommend it before exercise is doing some sort of foam rolling. I don't know if you're familiar with the term self-myofascial release. I have a whole bunch of videos on YouTube, but so it's basically using pressure on the muscle to release any knots or adhesions, and that is also going to kind of lengthen the muscle a little bit, right? Because you're working out those adhesions, those knots. Like when you go into a masseuse and they find a knot in your neck and you're like, oh, hold on that for a while because it really hurts. You're kind of doing this with your whole body, and
Mm.
it just helps work out adhesions so that the muscles are at optimal length for exercise. So I recommend doing that before, and then if you're going to stretch, do it after.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
Because, I did my ankles for the first time in the 40 years I've been on Earth. I actually did some calf raises, and
Oh,
my
oh,
legs burned for about 4 or 5 days, and they still hurt
yeah.
now today.
Okay, yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the calves do. They're very painful. And I
Okay.
bet if you rolled them out, like I was just talking about, they would be incredibly more painful, but then they would stop hurting.
Okay. Will my muscles stop? Like, if I get them started with some good base muscles, will I stop being in excruciating pain for a week at a time?
Yeah, yeah. If you're just starting out, it's always more extreme. Like I had surgery last year and I was off for 9 weeks. And even though I like gradually went back, oh my gosh, I was so sore for like a month, I think.
Yeah. That's me. I was a total atrophy case, string bean,
Okay.
didn't have any muscles at all, and then I'm starting from zero. So it gets
That's
better.
awesome.
Better.
Yeah.
The other thing is the abs. Am I crazy, or is just working out the abs is just terribly painful?
It's terribly painful.
It feels like my guts are exploding at some point.
Yeah.
They get all
Yeah.
warm and
Yeah, well, they're getting blood flow. They probably haven't, had much blood flow before.
It's true. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, well, I'm getting better. I'm getting stronger. As a vegan eating only plants, I'm as strong as I've ever been. I'm in better shape I've ever been.
Amazing.
So, take my advice at face value, I guess. But you know, well, I just want to point out, Clarissa Gannon, you have a YouTube channel, you have a
Hmm.
Instagram. You can find you pretty much on anywhere on social media.
Pretty
Anybody
much.
who's looking to better themselves, can they come to you? And
Yeah,
for advice?
absolutely. I'd love to have a conversation.
Yeah. You give free metabolic assessments.
You
You've got
do.
you have plenty of answers for people that are looking to better their life. And for a couple old timers like we are, I think we look pretty good.
I think so.
um, well, look, come back and do this again with me. I'd love to have
Okay,
you on. We'll always catch up on
absolutely.
nutrition information and all that stuff because we got to stick together in this whole vegan world. There's only 1% of us in the world. The rest of them are dirty meat eating carnivore types. So,
Right. True story.
that's- any, anything you want to add before we go?
No, I think that was wonderful. Thank you. I'd love to come back on. It was a good conversation.
All right. Well, let's sign off to everybody. We're going to talk after. So, all right.